In the legal world, there is a combination of forces that feed a corrupt and suffocating legal system for attorneys. Law schools, law professionals, judges, and even the firms themselves for whom you work create a system, a matrix, if you will, that is nothing like what you thought when you passed the bar exam. The purpose of this podcast is to help you escape this legal matrix, leading you out of the proverbial desert to be free of the bondage of the matrix. Hosted by Bryce D. Nyer, attorney at law with over 30 years experience in the trenches of civil and criminal litigation at the state, federal, and international levels. He's a highly accomplished and resourceful legal professional, a true master of his craft, and he's here to help you get your life back. Here's your host, Bryce D. Nyer.
All right. This is Bryce D. Nyer, host of You Know What Time It Is. It's time to escape the legal matrix. I'm here in Fayetteville, North Carolina, home of Fort Liberty, formerly known as Fort Bragg. I'm always going to call it Fort Bragg. They changed the name, but it doesn't change who they are. So, folks, what are we going to talk about tonight, today, this morning, whatever time zone you're in? We're going to talk about process and pain. That's right. We're going to talk about the subjects of process and pain. And what do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. Like I always say what I'm going to talk about, what I mean by that. So listen up, pay attention. Come on, wake up, get up. So everything in life is a process. Everything. There are no exceptions to everything in life being a process. From conceiving a child, that's a process. From being born, that's a process. Living every day is a process, and death is a process. Everything is a process that you do. And if you recall, we've talked about the 5 domains that are ever present: body, being, balance, business, and of course, fulfillment. And fulfillment is fueled by passion, because if you don't have passion in the domains, you're never going to be fulfilled. But everything in life that you do in all of these domains is going to involve some sort of process, no matter what it is. Life is just that. It is a process of people. It is a process of ideas. It is a process of emotions. It is a process of thoughts. It is a process of good versus evil. Everything in life that you are going to do or that you have done has involved some sort of process. And in this thing called process, there's pain. And you can't escape it. Pain is actually what fuels the process, because everything you've ever done in life has involved some sort of pain that allowed you to achieve or rise to the best version of you at that particular time. Childbirth involves pain. The parents are stoked and happy. They have this new child that came into the world, but there was pain involved in the 9 months of carrying the child, the labor, and then the actual delivery. Living every day, you're going to go through pain. You're going to go through highs. You're going to go through lows. You're going to go through pits. You're going to go to peaks. You're going to go from peaks back to pits. You're going to have problems. You're going to be hurt emotionally. You're going to be tired and fatigued physically. Spiritually, you're going to be challenged. Mentally, you're going to feel sometimes like you're going out of your mind trying to deal with everything in the tsunamis of life that are coming at you, because everything is a process. And in the legal profession, it's a process. And I want to take you through it, okay? So remember, when I talked in earlier episodes about how I decided I was going to go to law school, let's have a little bit of recap. I was a young captain. I was in my 20s. I was married to, at the time, she was a lieutenant. And that day I sat there on the balcony in Germany. Again, I had no debt. I was making good money. I had benefits. I mean, everything was solid. And this process started about me wanting to go to law school. It just came into my head. And so that's where the process began. And then I was having a couple German Weissen beers. You know, it was just a beautiful day. And the whole process, I was enjoying it. And I'm thinking, wow, what would it look like if I went to law school? Who would I have to be? And this whole process, this whole thought process started. Then we drove to the PX, and I got the Barron's Guide to Law Schools. And I was going through the process of going through the book and reading the descriptions of all of the law schools. And this process was enjoyable. And I nailed it down. I dialed it into at least 13 law schools that I really liked the description and I ultimately applied to. And going through that process of filling out the applications, sending them in, getting, my references to write letters was a process, but it was enjoyable because why? Because I had a mission. I had an impossible game. I had targets. I wanted to go to law school. I wanted to become an attorney. And as the letters came back and there were acceptances, there were rejections, one of the law schools that I ultimately attended required a personal interview. It was a process. And going through the process of getting in the vehicle with my brother and driving to the law school and going through the interview, the process was enjoyable. And then starting law school, the process of studying, of challenging my classmates, of being challenged by the professors to think in a totally different way, a total different phraseology was a process. And all through law school, as you law students know, it's a process to teach you how to think as a lawyer. Now, again, I have my issues with what law schools do or fail to do, but nonetheless, in today's world, as a law student, you're going to go through that process of trying to form you to think a different way in order to get you ready for the bar exam. The bar exam for me was a process, and it was enjoyable. Most people hated it. I didn't. And why didn't I hate it? Because I had a regimen. I got up in the morning. I ate breakfast. I studied before the bar prep class. Then I went to the class, and I came back. Then I practiced, doing the multiple choice questions, read the next day's lesson. Then I went to lunch. Then ultimately later on, I worked out with free weights. I was in the best shape of my life. Then I restudied the lesson from the earlier in the morning, did some practice questions again, watched a favorite TV show, and then I went to bed. And there was this process that whole summer. I was in the best shape of my life. I was focused. I had clarity. I was concentrating. And I was going through and I was accepting the pain that was in the process. Because remember, there's pain in everything that you do. A lot of my classmates were complaining. They hated it. They didn't want to do it. And they weren't not willing to submit to the pain. And you have to be willing to accept there's going to be pain in everything that you do in the process. And when I got out of the bar exam, there was basically a 30-day waiting period because in our state here in North Carolina, typically they get you the results within 30 days. And I had this process of, working other types of jobs during those 30 days, enjoying the process, the anticipation, waiting. No matter how it went, pass or fail, there was an enjoyment in the process, the anticipation of I'm going to get a letter one way or the other. And the good news was I got the thin letter. The thin letter, that's a good thing. That's a one-page letter saying congratulations, you passed the bar exam. And then the process began of seeking employment. Now, some people look at that as high and lows because you get a lot of rejection in the legal profession when you're applying for jobs, but it's a process. And I enjoyed the process. Why did I enjoy the process? Because I was looking and researching law firms. I was reaching out to people that I didn't know. I was making new contacts, new liaisons. I was meeting new people. I was going to interviews, and people were interested in me. There's a fulfillment in that. There's a passion in that. When you send a resume or you make a call and they want to talk to you, they're interested in talking to you for what doesn't matter the reason. The fact is you're just excited and you're passionate. Hey, they want to talk to me. They see something in me, and that process of the interview. And sometimes coming out of the interviews, I was like, oh God, man, I'm glad I'm not working with these clowns. Man, I hope they definitely turned me down because it really turned me off. But I still enjoyed the process. And when I first began litigating, I enjoyed the process. There was pain associated with it. I mean, you walk into a courtroom, it's not like law school. I mean, people's lives are on the line. You've got judges, you've got opposing counsel, you're dealing with clerks of court, you're dealing with your own staff, whether it's state, federal, or private employment. You're dealing with so much, and everything that you do is a process. The process of preparation, the process of arguing, the process of the litigation, the process of being tired, fatigued. Everything that you do is going to be a process. And I came to realize this within the last couple of weeks because I was really sick. I don't know. It was a virus. It was a flu. I don't know what it was. What I do know is I rarely get sick. And this thing kind of put me in bed. I mean, I had to leave work at least 2 days, go home early, and just get some rest because my body was going through a process. What was the process? The process was it was fighting off some virus, some infection. And when you're in bed and you feel miserable and you have no appetite, your body begins to detox off maybe foods you shouldn't have, like sugar, certain things that you're eating. And my body began to go through this complete detox, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And once it cleared up, I lost actually a couple pounds. I had this clarity and this focus that I had not had in a long time. And I began to think about this thing again called the process and the pain that's associated with it. Everything that I have ever done in life where I have succeeded, and again, you can define success and winning many different ways, but there was a process that I had to go through, and there was a pain associated with the process. When I was in ROTC in the Army, there was a process. There was a process of training. There was a process of testing. There was a process of being evaluated. There was what we call this advanced camp between the junior and senior year. And you and thousands of other cadets from across at my time during the East Coast region, thousands of cadets converged upon Fort Bragg. And there was a process that we all had to go through. And here's what I want you to think about. Everything you do in life, whether it's going to law school or maybe join the military, and everybody goes to basic training, and they tell you everybody's going to go through the same process. Yeah, there's a process that you go through in order to get to graduate basic training or to graduate law school or to pass the bar exam. But the process that you experience is like DNA. Your process DNA is distinctive from every other human being in the world. So, for example, you go through basic training in the military. Sure, it's going to be challenging. You're transforming from civilian life to military. You're regimented. You can't go anywhere without permission. You've got certain meals you're going to eat certain times. You're going to do physical training. You're going to do military training. Everybody's going to go through the same training and this thing that they call the process to transform you into a soldier or whatever service that you're in. But individually, you're going to react differently emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and physically to everything that you're doing along with everybody else, because your processing and your process of how you do it is different. Everybody's going to view it differently. Like I was just saying a few minutes ago, I enjoyed studying for the bar exam. The process was the same, that we all went to class, we all had to study, we all had to take the same exam, but the process and acceptance of the pain and the type of pain that I accepted and I was willing to go through and just embrace it was a different process for me than for my classmates. The same thing in the military training. It was a different acceptance of the pain, the willingness of what I was willing to do in order to achieve my impossible game or my targets or whatever it was that I was seeking at the time. And as a lawyer, you're going to go through a process. Your process is going to be completely different. The way you react, the way you act, how you talk, how you walk, how you present yourself. Everybody's going to have a different type of process. There's going to be a different type of pain. Pain is unique to everybody else. It's just like in death. Sometimes we just don't know what to say to our close friends or people we love when somebody close to them or somebody they love dies. And you hear the standard phrase, "I'm sorry for your loss." But see, there's a process that people go through in grieving, just like in death. And their process is completely different, and there's pain associated with it. For some that were suffering, perhaps the process of dying was their freedom from the pain. And there was a process that they were willing to accept in order to end the pain. Some people go through terrible things in life, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And there's a process they have to go through to deal with it that is unlike anything that they've experienced before. And it's not the same. Everybody is going to have this different, unique process and pain DNA. Nobody is going to be the same. You can empathize with people in their process, but it's still not you going through the process that they're going through. Nobody's the same as you. The process that you go through for whatever you're experiencing in your personal life or your professional life is going to have this total different makeup of process and pain DNA. People are just not the same. They are unique. They are different. It was just like getting a driver's license. The process. Some people thought, man, it's great. I'm 16 years old. I'm going for my driver's test. Other people going through the process, they were nervous. I remember when my sister got her driver's license, she was so nervous. At the very end of the driver's test, she was to do angle parking, which is the easiest thing to do. And she screwed it up. And I was standing there in the parking lot. And my mom's car was this big Chevrolet Impala with a 327 in it, okay? It was a big car, 4-door. And my sister, I had 3 of them, but my sister, she's not alive anymore, but she angle parked and the bumper scraped the whole side of the car and the parking space next to her. And see, the process for her was of fear. She was afraid of the process, and the pain she was experiencing was all this fear. Now, she passed the driver's test, but I recall, if I remember correctly, the grader took like 16 points off. And we had Allstate insurance at that time, and luckily the Allstate office was in the same complex as my mom. I had to walk over there and report a claim. I can't tell you how pissed the other driver was when they came out and saw that. But the point I'm making here is that everything you do in life, you're going to experience a different process, and you're going to experience a different pain. It's just like marriage. Okay, there's a process you go through in marriage. You see somebody and, you meet somebody, you meet them in a crowd, a party, a social event, and there's all these other men or women, and again, depending upon, who you're married or, what you desire, you see a particular individual and you go through this thought process and you're attracted to he or she out of everybody else. And then this process of, hey, let's talk, let's go out, let's date, exchange phone numbers, and you start the dating process. And then you get emotionally involved, and you probably get physically involved. And then you have this talk about being engaged and getting married. It's a process. And there's a process of planning for the wedding, and then the process of the wedding itself, and then the honeymoon, and then, living together and building a life. Some people have successful marriages, and they have a great process. Some don't. Not so great. And they ended up hiring people like me to uncouple them. So again, I want you, you have to think about this as you go through life. You're going to experience pain. You're not going to avoid it. You're not going to avoid pain in the process. Everything that you seek to achieve, you've got to be willing to accept there's going to be a pain. It's just like the saying, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Well, first of all, probably not everybody's going to heaven, okay? But everybody is going to die. That's a guarantee. Everybody will die. All humans die. So, but a lot of people don't want to go through a painful process. They don't want any pain associated, any process of anything that they do. And that's totally, totally unrealistic. It's just totally unrealistic. You can't do anything in life without some pain that fuels your process. It's just like when I started my workout program, I'm like, oh man, I get up early. I'm a morning person, but there's pain. There's pain in stretching. There's pain lifting the weights. I get tired sometimes. I get burned out, and there's pain associated with the workout. Now, the results of the workout ultimately will come, but it's the process. You have to accept and embrace the process. So everything that you're going to do in the legal profession, everything, bar none, in body, in being, in balance, in business, in fulfillment, is going to go through a process. And in that process, embedded in the process DNA, are the pain cells. They're there. And they're going to stay there. And some pain is going to be intense, and some pain is not going to be as intense. So what I want you to think about from this discussion of process and pain is this. You're seeking something. And here in Escape the Legal Matrix, what we're seeking is for you not to be a prisoner of the legal profession, to be free in body, being, balance, in business, and fulfillment. But there is a process that you are going to have to go through. And there's going to be pain involved for you to be able to own, to operate, and to lead your own law firm. There's going to be a process. You're not going to escape it. It's not going to be pain-free. What amount of pain are you willing to accept in the process? Because if you embrace the process, if you embrace the pain, if you submit that this is going to happen, you're going to rise faster. You're going to lead better. You're going to have and experience actual, real freedom. You will never attain the freedom you seek unless you go through the process, and the process will be filled with pain. So, we're not going to resolve this in one conversation here tonight. Reach out to me, hire me to lead you through the process and the pain, because escaping the legal matrix is going to be painful. But I can assure you, I can promise you, once you break free of the legal matrix or any matrix that seeks to hold you and control you, the pain you go through will be worth it. It will be worth it. When you go from pit to peak and you go through the process and you attain the freedom that you are seeking to run your own show, to call the shots, I assure you, on that day when it happens, you'll look back and you'll say, every inch I crawled, every tear I cried, every ounce of blood I shed, it was worth the pain. Okay, so this is another session of Escape the Legal Matrix with Bryce Denier here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Home here of Fort Bragg, now called Fort Liberty, but I'm never going to call it that. So you know you've got some homework to do. You've got some thinking to do. You've got to think about what is the process I have to go through for my impossible game in body, being, balance, business, and fulfillment. What is my passion? What fuels my passion? What is the process? And what is the pain that I must accept and I must be willing to embrace in the process of achieving it all? All right, this is Bryce Denier, and we are